Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of going over this, just with that last comment, it looks like there's a lot of something that's here that's not exactly here. So if we're talking about how something is distributed, what equitable actually means, why is it not something that we are looking at in the bill? So I am concerned about that last revelation, and that we would actually have everything that's in there. We should have everything as to how this is going to be distributed. The word equitable, I think, well, the word equitable just absolutely means nothing anymore. When it can mean everything, it means nothing. So we need to nail down the terms instead, the terms of the contract, especially where the state is going to be involved with putting the money, the finances, the resources of the citizens of Colorado at risk based on in a lot of ways, very ideological reasons. So we need to nail these terms down and not use buzzwords like equitable. Equitable means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And so it should not be used in a bill. You need to define what it means that you are trying to achieve. So when I look through this, I am concerned about the expanding government role in credit markets relative to the current law, and this continues state-run lending programs. Why is the state lending money? Now, one thing that anybody ought to, I always remind people that anybody that is in the process of putting their hands out for money, which of course is the whole entire purpose of this General Assembly, is generally for people to put their hand out for government money. And usually that's not so much a handout as it's a hand in. It's a hand in somebody else's pocket, because that's where the money comes from for all these programs. And you're reaching into this money of taxpayers to legislate it out of one pocket and into another. So that we have state-run lending programs. I'm not really sure where that goes, but I always like to remind people that Article 5, Section 34 of our Constitution says that anything that the state gives money to, over that it assumes absolute control. And so if you're going to consider taking money, if you're going to consider doing that deal with the devil, you need to make sure that you have contemplated over what part of your soul you would like the devil to have absolute control, because that is the nature of government lending and government spending. So this has state-run lending programs. I'm not really sure where the state has the authority to enter into lending programs based on some other targeted things we have. Free markets, government-directed lending programs, we have markets out there. We have equitable, we have lending, it doesn't even have to be equitable. Somebody can lend money based on their own personal preferences. They can lend money based on whatever they want to lend money on, unless the government has stepped in and said they can't. So we don't need the government to step in when there are market solutions that are not going to basically bind the individual to fealty to the state. Fiscal responsibility. We're talking about moving $5 million between funds. Now, granted, when we have a $50 billion budget, $5 million doesn't even show up in the fraction, but at some point, these things add up to money. They add up to real money. And the citizens of Colorado deserve that their money at all levels, even in the decimal place, even in the subdecimal place, is accounted for properly, because those subdecimals add up and then they eventually become real money. Because these are ultimately, when you look at these risks, when you put loans in and take them down from 4-to-1 participation to 1-to-1, you are risking the amount of money that is going into this, and you are risking the amount and the likelihood of default. If you only have to put down 50%, as opposed to 80%, the likelihood of default is a lot higher. And identity-based targets. The government is giving money. The government assumes absolute control. The Constitution precludes unequal treatment. So if the Constitution precludes unequal treatment in politicized lending criteria, even if the loan itself is not constitutional, the process at least should be constitutional. And now you are having an identity-based loan. We're not loaning money. This program is based on the color of the skin, not on the content of the character. That seems to be a violation of February in general, let alone specifically our Colorado Constitution. Personal responsibility, it takes a hit in this when expanded hardship deferrals may weaken repayment discipline. Now we've not only reduced the risk to the individual who wants the loan, they get the benefit, but they don't have the risk. But now we've said, okay, we're just going to expand the reasons that you don't have to pay it at all. And who's going to pay the brunt of that? Oh, it's going to be the government. It's going to be the state. But that money, again, based on the charitable good intentions of the sponsors, that money is coming out of the pockets of the citizens of Colorado. And I'd like to remind everybody that there is no such thing as charitable taking. There's charitable giving. The Lord loves a cheerful giver, but there is nothing about charitable taking. And when you reach into one citizen's pocket and you legislate money out of that pocket into another pocket because you prefer that person over another, that is theft. Now, I don't know what the motivation for that theft is, and I won't speak to the motivation for that theft, but legislating money from one citizen's pocket to another is theft. It is theft by the state, and it is payment to another. And again, I'm not speaking to the motivation. I don't know why the state wants to steal money from one citizen and give it to another. That's not the object of this conversation. The object of this conversation is the fact that it is stealing money from one citizen, putting it in the pocket of another. It is depriving one citizen of the opportunity to benefit from that money being in their pocket, and putting it in another citizen's pocket who has the benefit to gain from it. So you have an exchange. You're not only stealing the direct funds from one pocket to the other, you are taking the opportunity costs and you are assigning, they are losing the opportunity of that money, and then based on these ideological principles and the ideological good intentions, you are assigning that other person the ability to gain. They have an opportunity gain. So you have an opportunity loss and you have an opportunity gain. And that is theft. Again, I don't know why. You can speak to your own motivations. I won't speak to the motivations for that. I'll say the motivations are probably good, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and this is just one more brick. Why should taxpayers underwrite risk by lowering the private match from 4-to-1 to 1-to-1? Why? Why is that being placed on the taxpayers? Because you feel good about it? Because you think that would be good? Because you think that would be some equitable sort of thing? What does equitable mean? Does equitable mean assigning risk to one group of people over another based on some physical characteristic of that individual? Is that what equitable means now? Is equitable based on the color of skin, the physical characteristic, as opposed to the content of the character? The content of the character is going to determine whether somebody pays back the bill or not. This is a bill with just that right there. This is one of those bills where you say, like our whole housing bubble that we had that collapsed the housing market based on the good intention of allowing everybody to build, or was that just the good intention of feeding a lot of money into developers' pockets? Doesn't matter.
Representative DeGraaf, let's bring it back to this bill, please.
Oh, ma'am, I am talking about the bill.
I believe we're talking about another housing bill that passed. If you could bring it back to House Bill 1003.
I'm referring to the parallel to the bill, because what that did is it extended for good purposes, good intentions, it extended subprime mortgages to people that could not otherwise afford them, that did not have the means, ability, or character to repay them. And then who paid the bill for that? The bill for that was ultimately paid by the citizens of the states, of the citizens of the United States, of these United States. So this is really just the same thing. What we're doing is we're taking people that apparently we're saying that, hey, they can't get a loan from a normal, the multitude of other institutions that can pay these loans, that can extend these loans. We're saying this is a high-risk individual, because otherwise they would not go in debt, they would not go into fealty to the state unless they absolutely had to. So the reason for this bill is we have people that are taking on loans that have a high likelihood of not repaying. And because the body feels good about this word called equity, we're going to assign the risk to the rest of the citizens of Colorado. That is unjust. That is stealing from one pocket and legislating it into another. It doesn't really matter what the good intentions are. It's stealing. So how does identity-based targeting comply with this? Why don't we just say, hey, this person is a high risk? Because if somebody is a good risk, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what their physical characteristics are. Are they taking out a loan that they have the propensity to repay? Are they taking, because that is going to be, do they have a plan to work that program in order to repay the loan? If they do, then maybe they need to have a smaller loan that they can secure from somebody else, not go to the citizens of Colorado with a demand that the citizens of Colorado put money in their pocket at the loss of the citizens of Colorado for the potential gain and definitely the higher level of risk of these loans. What safeguards ensure that this broadened hardship just doesn't normalize? And we just say, oh, well, for the same reason that we're giving you this loan, we feel because we're giving you this loan because some sort of hardship, we're extending this loan for some sort of hardship, and then baked into this loan is the deferral for some sort of hardship. So it's almost like we based the loan on, hey, we will give you money if you cannot secure a loan someplace else, and because we've given you the same criteria that we've used to give you money, we're going to use to say you don't have to repay that money. Maybe that's not what's baked into it, but this hardship, again, that's like equity. What does it mean? What does hardship mean? What are the criteria? Who's going to decide? Who's going to decide what the hardship is, why they should not have to pay that money that was stolen legislatively out of somebody else's pocket? If county set-asides were inefficient, Why keep any non-market targeting at all rather than just sunset the program? If it was an inefficient program, why not just get rid of it? What are the program metrics guaranteed by this program? What are we looking at? Are we going to get a report on this that says how many loans that we've given, how many loans that have been defaulted, what's the basis for them? Are we going to, as the bankers for the citizens of Colorado, a select few citizens of Colorado, are we going to start reviewing these loans? Because we are representing the gallery. We are representing the citizens of Colorado who have actual rights. The people in the gallery have rights. This room does not have rights. You don't have the right to give the money of the people in the gallery to somebody else because it makes you feel good. That is theft.
Representative DeGraaf, I've given probably far more leeway than I should. If we could stop implying that our colleagues are stealing and talked about the merits and the policy in the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see no merit in legislating money from one citizen's pocket into another. There is no merit in legislating money from one citizen's pocket to another. This is a bill that just says, hey, we are based on physical characteristics of a select few people. The state is going to accept a high-risk loan, and then we are just going to silently pick winners and losers as to who has to repay that loan because it makes people feel good about the word equity, which we will just basically leave as undefined, some undefined goal. So generally, it just means not equality under the loan, equity and equality being different things. Equity typically means a forced redistribution to arrive at a set outcome, a set equality of outcome, which deprives citizens, which deprives individuals of not only the right to benefit from their actions, it also deprives citizens of their right and their responsibility to benefit from their lack of action or their failed action or their lack of responsibility. Sometimes that is a more beneficial lesson to somebody. And what this does is it deprives them of it because it is the nanny state coddling a select few individuals because it feels good about the word equity, and therefore it feels okay about legislating money from the citizens in the gallery to the citizens someplace in Colorado, and from what it looks like to me, absolutely no intention of repaying it. I recommend a no on this bill.